The afternoon sun cast long shadows across our backyard as smoke curled up from the grill, carrying the scent of charred meat and summer. It should have been perfect, one of those lazy Saturday gatherings where friends drink too much beer and tell the same old stories. But something felt off, like a discordant note in a familiar song. I flipped the burgers mechanically, watching my wife laugh at something Sarah had said. She looked radiant in her yellow sundress, her hair catching the golden light. That's when I noticed him again. Derek. My best friend since college, the guy who'd been my roommate for 3 years, who'd been the best man at my wedding 5 years ago. He was standing by the cooler, a beer halfway to his lips, frozen. Staring. Not a casual glance. Not the appreciative look that people sometimes give when someone tells a good joke or looks particularly happy. This was different. Intense. Almost hungry. "Hey, man, you want these medium or well done?" I called out, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling creeping up my spine. Derek startled, sloshing beer onto his hand. "What? Oh, medium's fine." He looked away quickly, too quickly, and busied himself wiping his hand on his jeans. I told myself I was imagining things. The heat was getting to me. I'd been working too many late nights at the office, and paranoia was a side effect of exhaustion. But then it happened again. And again. Every time I looked up from the grill, there he was. His eyes would dart away the instant I caught him, but the pattern was undeniable. When my wife bent down to pick up our daughter's toy. When she reached up to adjust the string lights we'd hung last weekend. When she simply stood there, talking and smiling with our friends. "Daddy, Uncle Derek is being weird," my daughter whispered to me later, tugging on my sleeve. She was 6, perceptive in that unfiltered way children are. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" "He keeps looking at mommy funny. Like how I look at cookies when you say I can't have any." Out of the mouths of babes. My stomach churned. The afternoon dragged on. I tried to focus on hosting, on making sure everyone had enough food and drinks, on being the gregarious guy everyone expected. But I couldn't stop watching Derek now. And the more I watched, the more I saw. The way he positioned himself to always have a line of sight to her. How he laughed too hard at her jokes, even the ones that weren't funny. The slight lean in when she spoke, as if he were trying to memorize every word. And worst of all, the expression on his face when he thought no one was looking, longing mixed with something darker, more possessive. My wife noticed my distraction. "You okay?" she asked quietly, sliding up beside me as I pretended to focus on arranging potato salad on a platter. "Yeah, just tired," I lied, forcing a smile. She squeezed my hand. "Only an hour more, then we can kick everyone out and collapse on the couch." I watched Derek watch her walk away. His eyes tracked her movement across the yard with an almost predatory focus. When another guy from our group, James, touched her elbow to get her attention about something, I saw Derek's jaw clench, his fingers tightening around his beer bottle. That's when I knew I wasn't imagining it. As the sun finally set and guests started trickling out, Derek lingered. He always did. We'd usually end these evenings with a beer on the porch, talking about nothing and everything. But tonight, I wanted him gone. "Big day tomorrow," I said, even though it was Sunday and we both knew I was lying. "Rain check on that beer." Something flickered across his face. Disappointment? Anger? It was gone too quickly to identify. "Sure, yeah. Great party, man." He pulled me into a hug, and over his shoulder, I saw him take one last, long look at my wife as she carried dishes into the house. After everyone left, I stood in the kitchen, staring at nothing while my wife loaded the dishwasher. My best friend. The guy I'd trusted with everything. What the hell was going on? I needed answers. I couldn't sleep that night. While my wife breathed softly beside me, I lay staring at the ceiling, my mind replaying every moment from the barbecue like a disturbing highlight reel. Around 2 a.m., I gave up, grabbed my phone, and headed downstairs. Start with the photos. That's what my gut told me. I opened Facebook first, scrolling back through the albums from various gatherings over the past few years. Group shots from camping trips, birthday parties, holidays. My finger hovered over each image, zooming in, studying faces and positions. The first one that made my blood run cold was from last year's 4th of July. A group photo, everyone smiling at the camera. Except Derek. His face was angled slightly away, his eyes clearly focused on someone, to the left. I zoomed in further. He was looking directly at my wife, who stood 3 people away, laughing at something off camera. I kept scrolling. Christmas party. 2 years ago. Same thing. While everyone else faced the camera, Derek's attention was elsewhere. On her. My daughter's 5th birthday. The Super Bowl party. The beach trip. Every single photo. How had I never noticed? The evidence was right there, documented and time-stamped, a digital trail of obsession hiding in plain sight. My hands were shaking as I opened Instagram. My wife's account was public. She was a freelance graphic designer and used it partly for work. I knew Derek followed her, but I'd never thought anything of it. Why would I? We were all friends. I clicked on her followers list and found his account. Then I did something I'd seen in a movie once. I looked at the timestamp of his likes on her photos. 2:47 a.m. 3:15 a.m. 1:33 a.m. 4:02 a.m. He wasn't just liking her photos. He was apparently lying awake in the middle of the night, scrolling through her feed. Some images he'd liked within minutes of her posting them, no matter what time of day. He'd liked photos from years ago, stuff she'd posted before we were even married. I felt sick. My wife had maybe 300 followers, a mix of friends, family, and professional contacts. I started checking her other followers, looking for patterns. Most people liked occasional photos, commented here and there. Normal stuff. Derek had liked every single photo she'd posted in the last 3 years. Every single one. And the comments, they seemed innocent enough at first glance. Great shot. Love this. Beautiful work. But now, knowing what I knew, they read differently. More personal. More intimate. I created a burner Instagram account and looked at Derek's own profile. It was sparse. He'd never been big on social media. But I noticed something odd. Several of his photos had locations tagged. Coffee shop downtown. The park near the city center. The farmer's market. All places my wife frequented. Places she'd mentioned or posted about. Was he following her? I grabbed my laptop and opened his Facebook profile on the larger screen. We'd been friends for 15 years, so I had access to pretty much everything. I went to his photos, the ones he was tagged in rather than the ones he'd posted. There. A photo from 3 months ago, posted by another mutual friend. It was from a concert downtown that I couldn't attend because I'd been sick. My wife had gone with a group of girlfriends. And there, in the background of a crowd shot, barely visible but definitely there, was Derek. He'd never mentioned going to that concert. When I'd asked him what he did that weekend, he'd said he stayed home and watched Netflix. My coffee had gone cold. The sun was starting to rise, painting the kitchen in shades of grey and pink. I felt like I was losing my mind, seeing connections that might not exist, but also knowing, absolutely knowing, that something was deeply wrong. I pulled up our text thread next. Derek and I texted almost daily, sports scores, memes, random thoughts. But I scrolled back, looking for anything unusual. Most of it was mundane, but then I noticed gaps. Times when he'd mentioned being busy or unavailable that coincided with events my wife had posted about on social media. The yoga class she taught at the community center on Tuesday nights. Derek had cancelled on our standing Tuesday dinner 3 times in the past 2 months, claiming work obligations. My wife's book club that met at the library the first Thursday of every month. Derek had suddenly started going to the same library, posting about what a great quiet workspace it was. The pieces were falling into place, forming a picture I desperately didn't want to see. But I needed concrete proof. I needed to know if this went beyond creepy observation. Had he acted on these feelings? Had he tried to contact her privately? I looked at my wife's phone, charging on the counter. I'd never been the jealous type, never felt the need to snoop. We had each other's passcodes for practical reasons, She used mine to check notifications when I was driving. I used hers to find her phone when she lost it. My hand reached for it, then pulled back. This felt like crossing a line. But hadn't Derek already crossed every line? Didn't I need to know? I picked up the phone. My wife's phone felt heavy in my hand, like it carried a weight beyond its physical presence. I entered her passcode with trembling fingers, each number a small betrayal of trust. But was it a betrayal if I was protecting her? Protecting us? The home screen lit up. Messages, email, Instagram, Facebook. Where to start? I opened her text messages first, scrolling through the recent conversations. Mom, sister, her best friend Rachel, work contacts, me. Nothing from Derek. But that didn't mean nothing had happened. I went to the search bar and typed his name. One thread appeared. My heart hammered against my ribs as I opened it. The messages were old, from 3 months ago. Late on a Saturday night, I remembered that weekend. I'd been at a bachelor party in Atlantic City. My wife had stayed home, said she was looking forward to a quiet weekend with our daughter. Derek, hey, you up? The timestamp read 11:47 p.m. My wife, yeah, just put Emma to bed. Everything okay? Derek, been thinking about you. I stopped breathing. The message just sat there, 3 words that changed everything. My wife, that's sweet. We're thinking about you too. Are you feeling better? You seemed off at dinner last week. Derek, no, I mean really thinking about you. You're so beautiful. Always have been. Do you ever think about what might have happened if? The message cut off there. A few minutes passed with no response from my wife. Then, Derek, sorry, that was inappropriate. Had too much to drink. Please forget I said anything. My wife, Derek, you're a great friend and we love you, but I think you should get some sleep. We can talk tomorrow if you need to. Derek, don't tell him. Please. It would ruin everything. I'm so sorry. My wife, get some rest. We'll forget this happened. The conversation ended there. No follow-up. I checked the dates again. This was 3 months ago. She'd never mentioned it to me. Not a word. I didn't know what to feel. Relief that she'd shut it down? Anger that she'd kept it secret? Betrayal that Derek, my best friend, the man I trusted completely, had tried this? I kept searching. Email next. I logged into her Gmail and searched for his name. A few group email chains, nothing suspicious. But then I checked her spam folder, remembering that sometimes messages from people you don't regularly correspond with end up there. There. One email. Sent 2 weeks ago, 3:24 a.m. Subject, I'm sorry. The body of the email was longer, rambling. I could tell he'd been drinking, the typos, the stream of consciousness style. I know I promised to forget about it and I've tried. God knows I've tried. But I can't stop thinking about you. Every time I see you, it's like my chest is being crushed. You're perfect. You're everything I've ever wanted. I know you're happy with him and I should be happy for you both. But I'm not. I'm miserable. I watch you together and I want to scream. I was there first. I knew you first. Do you remember that night in college? Before you two got together? We talked for hours at that party. I wanted to kiss you so badly, but I was too scared. And then he made his move and I stepped back. I've been stepping back ever since. But I can't anymore. I need you to know how I feel. Maybe you feel it too. That connection between us? I see the way you look at me sometimes. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm destroying everything. But I had to tell you. I love you. I've always loved you. I had to read it twice. Then 3 times. Each word felt like a punch to the gut. My wife had never mentioned this email either. Had she even seen it? I checked. Yes, it had been opened. Read. But there was no response. I went back to her text messages, searched for any conversation with anyone about Derek in the past few months. There, a thread with her best friend Rachel. My wife. Derek sent another weird message. I don't know what to do. Rachel, did you tell him yet? My wife. No. It would destroy their friendship. Maybe I should just be less friendly. Keep more distance. Rachel, girl, he's not getting the hint. You need to tell him or it's going to get worse. This is harassment at this point. My wife. I know. They've been friends for so long. I don't want to be the reason that falls apart. Rachel, you're not the reason. He is. His feelings, his problem. You've been clear. This isn't on you. My wife, I'll think about it. Maybe after the holidays. I don't want to make things awkward for everyone. The conversation was from 6 weeks ago. The holidays had come and gone. The barbecue had happened. And she still hadn't told me. I sat there in the pre-dawn darkness, my wife's phone in my hand, feeling like my entire world had shifted on its axis. Derek had been in love with my wife, maybe for years, maybe since before we got together. He'd been sending her inappropriate messages, probably showing up at places she frequented, obsessing over her social media. And she'd been dealing with it alone, trying to protect me, trying to protect our friendship, trying to avoid making waves. Part of me understood. Part of me was furious she hadn't told me. But mostly, I felt a cold, hard rage building in my chest directed at Derek. My best friend. My brother in everything but blood. The man who'd held my daughter when she was born, who'd helped me move 3 times, who'd talked me through my darkest moments. He'd been coveting my wife. Pursuing her. Making her uncomfortable in her own social circle. The phone buzzed in my hand, and I nearly dropped it. A notification. Instagram. Derek had just liked my wife's latest photo, the one she'd posted from the barbecue yesterday. A group shot of all the women at the party. Posted at 6:47 a.m. He was awake right now, scrolling through her photos. Thinking about her. Obsessing. I put the phone down carefully and walked to the window. The sun was fully up now, painting the street in shades of gold. Across town, Derek was in his apartment, probably in bed, probably alone, probably thinking about my wife. What was I going to do? I made coffee with mechanical precision, each movement automatic as my mind raced through scenarios. Confront Derek? Tell my wife I knew? Pretend I'd discovered nothing and watch it all unfold? Each option felt wrong in a different way. My wife appeared in the kitchen at 7, already dressed for her morning run. You're up early, she said, kissing my cheek. Couldn't sleep. Weird dreams, I said, the lie tasting bitter. I watched her pour coffee, stretch her calves, check her fitness tracker. Normal Sunday morning. Except nothing was normal anymore. Emma's still asleep. I'll be back in 45. She smiled, earbuds already in, and headed out the door. The moment it closed, I grabbed my phone and typed out a message to Derek. We need to talk. My place. 1 hour. The response came within seconds. Everything okay? I didn't reply. 53 minutes later, Derek's car pulled into my driveway. I watched from the window as he sat there for a moment, gathering himself before getting out. He looked tired, dark circles under his eyes, hair uncombed. He'd thrown on a wrinkled t-shirt and jeans. I opened the door before he could knock. Hey, man, what's going on? You sounded. Come in. I stepped aside, my voice flat. He walked past me, heading automatically toward the kitchen like he'd done hundreds of times before. But I directed him to my office instead, closing the door behind us. This was a conversation I didn't want my daughter accidentally overhearing. Sit down. Something in my tone made him comply without his usual jokes or resistance. He perched on the edge of the chair across from my desk, hands clasped between his knees. I remained standing, arms crossed. For a long moment, I just looked at him, this person I thought I knew completely. 15 years of friendship, and I'd never really seen him at all. How long? I asked finally. How long what? But his face had gone pale. He knew. Don't. My voice came out harder than I intended. Don't insult me by pretending you don't know what I'm talking about. How long have you been in love with my wife? The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Derek's mouth opened, closed. His hands were shaking. That's not. He couldn't finish a sentence. I found the messages, Derek. The texts. The emails. I've seen the photos, every single group shot where you're staring at her instead of the camera. I've tracked your social media activity. I know about the concert you lied about attending. The places you just happened to show up. All of it. His face crumbled. For a moment, I thought he might cry. Part of me, a rapidly shrinking part, wanted to comfort him, 15 years of friendship pulling at me like muscle memory. But the larger part, the part that was a husband and father, felt nothing but cold fury. I never touched her, he whispered. I swear to God, I never. You think that makes this okay? I stepped forward, and he flinched. I'd never been violent, never even raised my voice to him before. You think the fact that you never physically assaulted my wife makes your obsession acceptable? It's not an obsession. You drunk texted her at midnight telling her you've been thinking about her. You sent a 3-page email at 3 in the morning confessing your love. You like every single photo she posts, sometimes in the middle of the night. You've been following her around town, showing up at her yoga classes, her book club. What the hell do you call that if not obsession? He stood up abruptly, hands raised defensively. You don't understand. I've tried to stop. I've tried so hard. I even dated other people, went to therapy. Oh, well, if you tried, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. That makes it all fine then. You tried to stop obsessing over my wife, so we should all just move on. I loved her first. The words exploded out of him, raw and desperate. Before you even noticed her, I was in love with her. That night at Tyler's party, sophomore year, I talked to her for hours. We connected. I was going to ask her out, but I wanted to wait until I was sober, do it right. And the next weekend, you swooped in and I stepped aside because you were my best friend and you seemed so happy and I thought I could get over it. That was 15 years ago, Derek. I know. He was pacing now, hands in his hair. Don't you think I know that? Don't you think I know how pathetic this is? I've tried to move on. I got engaged, remember? To Sarah. And I broke it off because she wasn't. He stopped, unable or unwilling to finish. She wasn't my wife, I finished for him. You broke off an engagement to a woman who loved you because she wasn't the woman you couldn't have. He sank back into the chair, head in his hands. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I can't control how I feel. You can control your actions. I slammed my hand on the desk, making him jump. You can control sending inappropriate messages. You can control showing up at places she goes. You can control spending your nights stalking her social media. You had a choice in all of this, and you chose to be a creep. Does she hate me? His voice was small, broken. She's been protecting you, I said, and watched him look up in surprise. She didn't tell me because she didn't want to ruin our friendship. She's been dealing with your harassment alone, making excuses for you, probably feeling guilty like this is somehow her fault. That's what you've done to her, made her feel responsible for your inability to respect boundaries. Fresh shame washed over his face. I never wanted to hurt her. Or you. You have to believe that. But you did hurt us. You've been hurting us. I moved to the window, unable to look at him anymore. My 6-year-old daughter noticed you staring at her mother yesterday. A child recognized that something was wrong with the way you look at my wife. Do you understand how messed up that is? I'll stop. I'll get help. Real help. You're not going to get the chance. I turned back to face him. Our friendship is over, Derek. Effective immediately. You don't come to our house. You don't call. You don't text. You unfollow my wife on all social media. If we end up at the same group event, you stay away from her, And from me. Please. He was crying now, tears streaming down his face. You're my best friend. My only real friend. Don't do this. I'm not doing anything. You did this. This is the consequence of your choices. He stood, wiping at his face with his sleeve. What about the guys? The group? Fantasy football, our poker nights. I'll tell them we had a falling out. They don't need to know the details unless you force my hand by not staying away from my family. I love you, man. You're like a brother to me. Brothers don't do what you did. My voice was flat, emotionless now. The anger had burned through me, leaving only exhaustion. If I was truly your brother, truly your friend, you would have been happy for me. You would have celebrated my marriage, respected my wife, and found your own happiness instead of coveting mine. He moved toward the door, shoulders slumped in defeat. With his hand on the doorknob, he turned back one more time. Tell her I'm sorry. Please. Tell her I never meant to make her uncomfortable or scared or... No. I cut him off. You don't get to use me to send her messages. You don't get closure or forgiveness or peace of mind. You deal with your guilt on your own. He nodded, opened the door, and walked through my house for the last time. I followed at a distance, making sure he actually left. Through the window, I watched his car pull away, and only then did I allow myself to breathe. My wife came back from her run 20 minutes later, cheeks flushed, ponytail swinging. She stopped when she saw my face. What happened? Derek was just here, I said. We need to talk. My wife went still, her water bottle halfway to her lips. In that moment, I saw everything cross her face: fear, guilt, relief, dread. She set the bottle down carefully. You know, she said. It wasn't a question. I know. She sank onto the couch, and I sat beside her, careful to leave space between us. The morning light streamed through the windows, dust motes dancing in the beams, ordinary and peaceful. Everything looked the same as it had 24 hours ago, but we both knew nothing would ever be the same again. How long have you known? She asked quietly. Since yesterday. At the barbecue, I noticed him staring. I couldn't sleep last night, so I started looking through old photos, social media. And then... I paused, shame coloring my words. I looked at your phone. I saw the messages. I expected anger at the invasion of privacy. Instead, she just nodded, her shoulders dropping as if she'd been carrying a heavy weight and could finally set it down. I should have told you, she whispered. God, I should have told you months ago. Years ago, maybe. Why didn't you? She was quiet for a long moment, her fingers twisting together in her lap. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Just paranoid, you know? Derek was your best friend. He was always around, always friendly. I thought maybe I was misreading normal friendship as something else. When did you know for sure? About a year ago. We were all at Jake's wedding, remember? You and the guys went outside to smoke cigars, and I was at the bar getting a drink. Derek came up next to me and just, the way he looked at me, the way he stood too close. He put his hand on my lower back, and it wasn't a friendly touch. I could feel the intention behind it. She shuddered at the memory. I made an excuse and left, but after that, I started noticing all the other things. The staring, the comments that were just a little too personal, the way he'd find reasons to touch me, my shoulder, my arm, my hand. The messages started after that. She nodded. The first text came about 3 months after the wedding. I shut it down, told him it was inappropriate, that I loved you and he needed to stop. He apologized, said he'd been drinking, that it wouldn't happen again. I believed him because I wanted to. Because the alternative meant admitting that your best friend, a man we'd trusted around our daughter, was. She trailed off, unable to finish. Obsessed with you. Yes. The word came out as a sigh. And then the email came, and I knew it wasn't going to stop. I talked to Rachel about it. She said I needed to tell you, that you deserved to know. But every time I tried, I thought about what it would do to you. You and Derek have been friends since college. He was your best man. He's Emma's godfather. I couldn't bear being the reason that friendship ended. I took her hand, and she gripped it tightly. You weren't the reason. He was. His choices, his actions, his refusal to respect boundaries, that's what ended our friendship. I kept thinking he'd get over it, she continued, tears now streaming down her face. That if I just stayed polite but distant, he'd eventually move on, find someone else, and we could all go back to normal. I didn't want to make you choose between us. I didn't want to be that wife who tears her husband away from his friends. You're not that wife. You're the woman who tried to protect everyone, even at your own expense. I pulled her closer, and she leaned her head on my shoulder. But you should have told me. This shouldn't have been your burden to carry alone. I know. I'm sorry. I just kept hoping it would resolve itself. It was never going to resolve itself. I saw the pattern, the escalation. Obsessions like that don't just fade away without intervention. She pulled back to look at me, worry etched in her features. What did you say to him? When he was here this morning? I told her everything, the confrontation, his confession about loving her since college, his pathetic justifications, my ultimatum. She listened without interrupting, fresh tears falling as I described how he'd broken off an engagement because his fiancée wasn't her. That's so sad, she said when I finished. Not for him, I mean, yes, it's sad for him too, but I was thinking about Sarah. She probably had no idea why he really ended things. That was so like her, finding compassion even for people on the periphery of this mess. It was one of the reasons I loved her. He's out of our lives now, I said firmly. I made it clear, no contact with either of us, especially not with you. If we see him at group events, he keeps his distance. The guys are going to ask questions. Let them. I'll tell them we had a falling out. If Derek tries to spin some other story, I'll tell them the truth. I paused. Actually, I think I need to tell at least a few of them the truth anyway. They should know to watch out for this kind of behavior, to take it seriously if their wives or girlfriends mention someone making them uncomfortable. She nodded slowly. Rachel said something similar. That women deal with this stuff all the time and we normalize it, make excuses for it, try to manage it ourselves because we don't want to cause drama. You shouldn't have to manage it. No one should. I thought about my daughter, asleep upstairs, oblivious to all of this. I want Emma to grow up knowing that if someone makes her uncomfortable, she tells us immediately. That it's not her job to protect other people's feelings when they're disrespecting her boundaries. We'll teach her, my wife said. We'll do better than our parents' generation did. We sat in silence for a while, processing everything. The betrayal, the relief that it was finally in the open, the strange grief that comes with losing a friendship even when you know it's necessary. Are we okay? She asked finally. You and me. Yeah, I said, and meant it. I wish you'd told me sooner, and I'm sorry I invaded your privacy by looking at your phone, but we're okay. Better than okay, because now we're dealing with this together instead of you handling it alone. She kissed me, soft and grateful. I love you. So much. You have to know that there was never any part of me that. I know. I never doubted you, not for a second. This was all him. What about the group? Our friends? This is going to change everything. It was true. Derek was woven into our entire social fabric. Holidays, birthdays, weekend hangouts, he'd been there for all of it. His absence would leave a hole, and people would notice. Some things will change, I acknowledged. But the people who matter, who really know us, they'll understand. And the ones who don't, maybe they weren't as good friends as we thought. Over the next few weeks, the ripples of Derek's exile spread through our social circle. I told our closest friends the truth, not every detail, but enough. The reactions varied. Some were shocked, a few admitted they'd noticed something off about how Derek acted around my wife but hadn't wanted to say anything. One friend, Marcus, shared that his girlfriend had mentioned feeling uncomfortable around Derek at a party last year. I should have listened to her, Marcus said, shame evident in his voice. She said he kept trying to dance with her, wouldn't take no for an answer. I told her he was just drunk and friendly. I'm an idiot. We all missed it, I said. Or we saw pieces but didn't put them together. That's what these guys count on. That will make excuses for them because they're our friends. Derek made a few attempts to reach out in those early weeks. A long email to me that I deleted without reading. A letter delivered to our house that went straight into the shredder. My wife told me he'd sent her flowers at work with a card that said, "I'm sorry for everything." She threw them away and had HR send a formal letter asking him to cease all contact. "It feels harsh," she admitted one night as we were getting ready for bed. "He's clearly suffering." "He's suffering consequences," I corrected gently. "There's a difference. And I know it feels harsh because you're a kind person, but maintaining boundaries isn't cruelty. It's self-protection." Emma asked about Uncle Derek a few times. We kept our explanation simple and age-appropriate. Sometimes grown-ups stop being friends, and that's okay, people change. She accepted it with the resilience of children and moved on. Months passed. Our lives adjusted to the new normal. We still saw our friends, still hosted gatherings, but there was a Derek-shaped absence that everyone felt but rarely mentioned. I heard through the grapevine that he'd started therapy, that he'd taken a job in another city and was moving away. Good, I thought. Distance would help everyone heal. One evening, almost 6 months after the confrontation, my wife and I sat on our back porch, the same spot where the barbecue had taken place. Emma was at a sleepover, and we had a rare night alone. "Do you ever think about what he said?" my wife asked. "About loving me since college, about seeing me first?" "Sometimes," I admitted. But then I remember that love isn't about who saw someone first or wanted them longest. Love is about respect, partnership, choosing someone every day and being chosen back. He never loved you. He loved an idea of you, a fantasy he built up in his head. Real love doesn't make someone uncomfortable. It doesn't ignore boundaries. It doesn't put its object on a pedestal while tearing down her actual life and choices. She squeezed my hand. "When did you get so wise?" "I've had a lot of time to think about it." I pulled her closer. "And I've realized something else. This experience, as awful as it was, showed me how strong you are. How you tried to handle an impossible situation with grace and kindness, even when you shouldn't have had to. And it showed me that our marriage can weather hard things, that we can face uncomfortable truths together and come out stronger." "You're not wrong," she said. "But I don't recommend it as a bonding experience." I laughed, and it felt good. Normal. We'd been doing more of that lately, laughing, enjoying each other, reclaiming our space and peace. "There's something I want to do," my wife said suddenly. "I want to throw another barbecue. Here. Same spot. Invite all our friends, the ones who stood by us. I want to make new memories in this space, better ones that don't have his shadow over them. I think that's a great idea. And I want to tell people, other women especially, about what happened. Not in a gossipy way, but as a warning, a reminder to trust their instincts. If I'd spoken up sooner, maybe we could have avoided months of stress and anxiety. You were doing your best with a difficult situation. But yes, if sharing our story helps someone else recognize the warning signs or feel empowered to speak up, that's a good thing." The next weekend, our backyard filled with friends again. The same string lights, the same grill, many of the same people. But everything felt different. Lighter. There was laughter and easy conversation, no undercurrent of unease, no one's eyes where they shouldn't be. I stood at the grill, watching my wife animated and happy as she told a story, our daughter running around with the other kids, our friends relaxed and enjoying themselves. This was what gatherings should feel like. Safe. Joyful. Uncomplicated. Later, as people were leaving, Rachel pulled me aside. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For believing your wife. For not making excuses for him or asking her to tolerate it for the sake of keeping the peace. You'd be surprised how many men don't do that. I shouldn't get credit for basic decency." "Maybe not, but I'm still grateful." She glanced over at my wife, who was saying goodbye to another guest. "She was really scared to tell you, you know." She thought you might not believe her, or that you'd blame her somehow. I would never, I started, but she held up a hand. I know that now, and so does she. But a lot of women have experienced the opposite. They speak up about harassment or uncomfortable behavior from their partner's friend or family member, and they get told they're overreacting, being dramatic, trying to cause problems. She smiled sadly. The fact that you immediately believed her, took action, and prioritized her safety over a friendship, that means everything. After everyone left, my wife and I cleaned up together in comfortable silence. When the last dish was put away and the trash taken out, she turned to me. "Thank you," she said, echoing Rachel's earlier words. "You don't need to thank me." Yes, I do. For seeing what was happening. For ending it. For making me feel safe again in my own life. She wrapped her arms around my waist. I didn't realize how much stress I'd been carrying until it was gone. I can breathe again. I held her close, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, feeling her heartbeat against my chest. We protected each other. That's what marriage is. Is this the end of it, do you think? Is he really gone? I think so. He's in Portland now. New job, new life. And even if he comes back to visit, he knows the boundaries. He knows what he stands to lose if he crosses them again. Our friends. His reputation. Any remaining dignity. Exactly. He lost me as a friend, but that was just the first domino. He knows if he tries anything else, everyone will know the whole truth. That's a powerful deterrent. She pulled back to look at me. Do you miss him? The friendship you thought you had? I considered the question carefully. I miss what I thought we had. I miss the idea of a best friend who had my back, who I could trust completely. But the reality, the person he actually was, who could lie to my face while obsessing over my wife? No, I don't miss that person at all. I hope he gets help. I hope he figures out whatever broke inside him that made him think this was okay. That's more generous than he deserves, but it's very you. I kissed her forehead. Come on. Let's go to bed. Emma will be back early tomorrow, and you know she's going to wake us up at dawn to tell us everything about the sleepover. As we walked upstairs, my wife paused at Emma's door, looking in at the empty bed. Do you think we should tell her the real reason someday? When she's older? Maybe, I said. If it's relevant, if it can teach her something important about boundaries and self-respect. But for now, she doesn't need to carry that weight. That night, I dreamed about the college party Derek had mentioned, the one where he'd talked to my wife for hours, where he'd planned to ask her out. In my dream, I saw it from his perspective, a young woman laughing at his jokes, engaged in conversation, connecting. And I saw the moment he decided to wait, to do it right, and the moment he saw me approach her the next weekend. But then the dream shifted, and I saw it from my wife's perspective. A friendly conversation at a party, nothing more. No spark, no connection beyond casual friendliness. And then the next weekend, meeting me, and the immediate chemistry we'd both felt, the way we'd talked until 3 a.m., the way she'd looked at me like I was exactly who she'd been waiting for. I woke with the understanding that Derek's version of that night, the one he'd built his obsession on, had never been real. He'd created a fantasy from a friendly conversation and spent 15 years nurturing it, feeding it, letting it grow into something monstrous. My wife was already awake, checking her phone. Emma just texted. They're on their way. 20 minutes. Time to make pancakes then. Her favorite. She smiled at me. You know what? I'm happy. Right now, in this moment, I'm just happy. Me too. And I was. The shadow that had hung over us for months was finally gone. Our home felt like ours again. Our marriage was stronger for having weathered the storm. And while I'd lost a friendship I'd valued, I'd gained something more important. The absolute certainty that when it mattered most, I'd chosen correctly. The doorbell rang, Emma, bouncing with excitement and stories. As I headed downstairs to let her in, I heard my wife laugh in the kitchen, a sound of pure, uncomplicated joy. We were going to be okay. Better than okay. We were going to be great.